I came across this article from Motor Trend talking about how Audi is going to bring the legendary RS4 to the United States. And I got really excited because this is one of my favorite Avants or wagons of all time, specifically the B5. I'm going to show you the generations of the RS4 Avant in just a minute when we jump into Photoshop. But first of all, let's see what actually happened here in this article and what they're saying. Motor Trend claims that the RS4 Avant is actually coming to the United States. Here you can see, man, this car would rule in America. And to our surprise, an Audi employee said that the RS4 is indeed coming to the United States. And I thought that kind of makes sense because the RS6 Avant sold out really fast here in the US. So why not bring the smaller sibling over as well? But then I came to check out this article, which says confirmed. Audi has no plans to sell the RS4 Avant in the US. So we kind of have two different statements here, but this seems to be the correct one. So the Speedy Estate isn't sold here, and according to Audi, there are no plans to change that, full stop. Motor Trend received official word from the company that there were no plans at this time for the RS4 in the US, and Audi official comments to us was abundantly clear. There are no plans to bring the RS4 Avant to the US market. So I have a couple of theories on what happened here. I think maybe this is what I'm hoping for, that someone at Audi overheard Motor Trend talking about how cool it would be to bring the RS4 to the US, and they just couldn't contain themselves. So they leaked out that it's actually coming, but maybe not right now, maybe in a couple of years or so. And then maybe the heads of Audi went crazy and said, of course we're not bringing the RS4 Avant to the US because they want to keep it on the down low for now, but I hope that eventually it will actually come over here. So let's have a look at what some of the spec and tech, and then I'm going to compare this to the new M3 Touring. I wish both came over here, but unfortunately we don't get either of them. We still have the RS6 Avant though, which I think is great. The E63 wagon, we have that here as well. So the power comes from a 2.9 liter twin turbo V6 with 450 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque. Not bad at all. And of course you get the Quattro, the iconic Audi Quattro all-wheel drive system. 0 to 60 takes just 3.9 seconds, which happens to be 0.2 of a second's improvement over the standard car. So I'm going to compare the Competition Plus RS4 Avant to the M3 Touring, and the Competition Plus has a couple of new bits, new exhaust, new brakes, new wheels and tires, and some carbon fiber pieces onto it to separate it from the regular RS4 Avant. And you have a top speed of 180 miles per hour, which was also the top speed of the very first RS4 back in 1999. So that, I think that says a lot of just how cool the first RS4 really was. Let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at the generations of the RS4. So starting, of course, with the one and only B5 RS4 up here. And this, to me, is a very, very special car because when I grew up in Sweden, we have this thing called prao, and that means that when you're 14, 15 years old, you go out to a workplace, you kind of experience what it is to be, working full-time at a job. That's the whole point of it. You can kind of decide or choose which location you want to go to, and obviously I went to the Audi dealership that was close to me at the time, and at that time the RS4 just came out, and they had one of these examples in red on the showroom floor, and I thought it would look so cool because this is one of these cars that you need to know what it is, otherwise it just looks like, a normal A4 Avant. But then you start to notice the wide beefy fenders, the 18-inch 9-spoke wheels, and the big intakes in the front bumper. You notice that something is different about this car, and I also love the silver side mirrors that we have on S and RS4 Audi models. I remember one of the employees was taking it out he took it to a car wash or something like that. And I remember him accelerating out of the shop and how the whole car just kind of squatted down when he pushed the gas to the floor, putting all that 380 horsepower down to the ground. Since that moment, I have been in love with the first generation B5 RS4. They also had a yellow S3 that I actually got to sit and drive in for a little bit, even though I didn't have a license, obviously. I was just 15 years old, but those are memories for me that are gonna stick for the rest of my life. So looking at this design, it looks very similar to your normal RS A4 Avant, and that's what I love about it. But when you start to look closely, you can see that these fenders are a lot wider. There's something going on in this body here. You have way different wheels as well. I love these wheels. If I were to get this car, I would not switch out these wheels, because these wheels to me, they are a part of the entire design of this car. I also love this treatment of the front bumper. We have massive air intakes, and comparing this to the regular A4, you can definitely see that this is something underneath here, a twin turbo V6 that needs more cooling than a normal A4, and that's why we have these bigger intakes. And of course the silver side mirrors that we have, that's been a part of S and RS4 models for a very long time. Now moving into the B6, if you know your RS4 history, you know that there is no such thing as a B6 RS4. However, they did the S4 as a B6 model, which I really think looks good as well. It looks like a clear, evolution or modernization of the B5, and I think they also made a good decision not turning the B6 into an RS model. The reason why they didn't turn this into an RS model is because the B7 down here is essentially a very complex or big facelift of the B6. So what Audi didn't want to do, they didn't want to have too many RS models, specifically RS4 in this case, too close to each other, too close in model years. So what they did, they just skipped this generation. This has the same platform. This is built on the same platform as the B6 up here, and they decided to just turn the B6 into an S4 while they waited a little bit longer to keep the exclusivity of the RS4 models and save that for the later stages of the B7 generation. And this of course is a legendary car as well. This is where you have the 4.2 liter V8 underneath the hood. I love these wheels as well. The wheels on RS models have just been special throughout the years. These are special, the first generation. These are also very special to me, and so are these. You can definitely, just by looking at the wheels, you can tell what car they belong to very easily. There's no other car that has wheels like this. And then we go down to the B8 down here. You can see that we now get a little bit more, I would say, restraint in the styling, and looking a little more in line with the normal A4 in this case. We don't have as much aggressiveness in the front end bumper, and these are a little wider. You can see that we have some wider fenders here sticking out, but they don't have the soft integration that we have in previous RS models. Now they feel like almost like a body kit has been added onto the design. I think it looks really cool still, but this is probably my least favorite RS4, just for the simple reason that it doesn't feel as special when it comes to the design changes as the previous models. Last but not least, this is the Competition Plus RS4 Avant that is currently on sale in Europe, but not here in the United States, unfortunately. And I think this looks really cool as well. So they took these wide fenders that we have in the B8 and they kind of added some more sharpness to it, and I like that they now connect to this wider intake that we have in the front end and also in the rear. We have a similar treatment like this in the rear, where the wider fender lines goes into an actual graphic feature of the car. And I don't think the front end is over stylized either. It looks very clean with these intakes. It looks almost traditional 90s sports car intakes in the front end, which I think is great. These wheels are brand new. They look very much inspired by Lamborghini design. As you know, Audi owns Lamborghini, so we have this Y shape that we have on the Huracan, for example, and I think that suits this car. The interior is also very chiseled and sharp and reminds me of the Lamborghini design DNA in the interior. And then we have, of course, Audi being in front of the line when it comes to LED lighting in their headlights, and we have some very clear identity right here with these LEDs that you see here. There's no mistaking this for anything else than an Audi. So now, comparing the Audi RS4 Competition Plus to the new BMW M3 Touring, just for fun, just to let you know what I think about both of these cars and which one I would personally buy. They are priced very similarly over in Europe, so this is a pretty good comparison. So looking at the design here, we have the twin-turbo V6 450 horsepower Quattro all-wheel drive RS4, does 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, and you have the top speed of 180 miles per hour, the same, as I said, as the first B5 RS4. And then on the right, you have the BMW M3, which has an inline six with 503 horsepower, so a lot more than the 450 you get in the RS4, and you have a 0 to 60 time of 3.4 seconds and a top speed of 174 miles per hour. So it has more power, but it has a lower top speed than the Audi RS4 Avant. And it also comes with the xDrive, so you have the all-wheel drive in both of these cars. Now, looking at the design, you know, there are two completely different approaches to design philosophy. I think the Audi, definitely in the front end, for example, looks a lot cleaner than the BMW. I've talked so much about this front end of the BMW and how I think this grille could have been integrated way better than it is right here. For example, by just creating a curvature like this would have helped, and to fill this in with some body color right here. I think just making this would have made it a lot more harmonious to look at. Just a simple change like that. But it's still, it's growing on me for sure, and I think it looks way better as a wagon than it does as a sedan or the M4 Coupe. And the reason being is I think this rear end actually balances out this heavy graphic in the front end, and it feels more proportionally correct when you have the touring version of the BMW. You can see that the shoulder line also sticks all the way and goes all the way back, and then we have a second shoulder line going underneath here. While looking at the Audi, it has a lot cleaner styling to it. We have one single line going right here from one corner of the headlight to the corner of the taillight, and we have this big cut in the lower part, kind of cutting out some mass in the lower part, making it feel lighter and sporty. And I also love the design of these wheels. I think they look fantastic on this car, in addition to the roofline of the Avant RS4, which feels a little sleeker than what we have in the BMW. Maybe it's the angle of this pillar here being a little bit more leaned forward than what we have in the BMW. It could also be the fact that we have this upswing in the rear end of the BMW, while the Audi goes straight all the way back. This line of the greenhouse and the windows in the bottom, a straight line all the way to the back. I love how the RS4 Avant looks. I think it looks fantastic. It's just a gorgeous machine. So looking at the rear ends here, same thing here. I do prefer the Audi's design to BMW. I think this has a lot of styling going on that's maybe not necessary. It doesn't look bad in the rear, the M3. We have a big diffuser with almost centered quad exhaust, while in the Audi we have these typical big RS4 bazooka tailpipes, ovals in each corner. And I think this diffuser also looks, it kind of feels more elegant and more dynamic than it does in the BMW, which is pretty static looking. Still not bad looking, but still it's a different approach to the designs. And then we have, of course, we need to talk about the interiors here. Both of these, I'm a huge fan of both of these interiors. I think if I were to pick one between these two, I'm probably gonna go with the BMW for the simple reason that they integrated their infotainment screen a lot better than what Audi did. So you can see here that we have a nice integration and housing and clear home for where the infotainment screen is supposed to sit. Unfortunately though, if you're getting a 2024 model, you're gonna get a completely different interior, which completely ruins everything about this car. And I talked about that in my previous video right here on the channel. You can go and check that out if you want to. But having a look at the infotainment screen on the RS4 here, this just, I don't know if it's even covering the vents behind it or something. This feels like it's definitely not supposed to be here. It feels like someone took some Gorilla Glue, bought an iPad and just stuck it onto the dash right there with no integration. However, both of these cars still, up until the 2023 model for the M3 and M4, still have a nice housing for the gauge cluster, which I appreciate. Even though the entire thing inside is all digital, I don't really mind that. I do prefer the steering wheel of the RS4 is all Alcantara, as you can see, and it has a flat bottom, which we don't have on the BMW, even though this looks very big and girthy, looks nice to hold. And I'm a huge fan of this color of the interior, this orange in combination with the gray and the black up here. It's a nice color combination, just adding some splashes of color into an otherwise very black interior like we have in this specific RS4. So which one of these would I buy? If they're equally priced, for the, talking just about the design, I'm gonna have to go with Audi in this case, simply because it has a more elegant and congruent design going from the front end through the side into the rear. The BMW comes with a lot more power. You have 53 more horses, but it does have a lower top speed, and you do lose half a second 0 to 60, but to me that doesn't really matter that much when the design of the RS4 look as good as it does. Now, before I end this video, I just want to say, if any Audi executives are watching this video, consider bringing the RS4 Avant to the US. You had great success with the RS6. You brought over, I think, 2,000 samples over here to the US. All of them get sold out very quickly, so I think there is a demand for quick Audi wagons here in the States.